All right, so we're going to be continuing to talk about writing things in slope-intercept form. You guys already did some practice with finding the slope. All right, so you need to know the slope formula. Here's another formula that you can use. I will not be giving it to you on the test, but I use this one. That's my preference. So I have it memorized. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, that's called point slope form. So we have an example. All right, we want to write the equation of this line in slope-intercept form. So when it's done, it needs to be y equals mx plus b. That's when I know it's finished, when it's in this form. Okay? So the first thing, that when I see a table of ordered pairs, I'm thinking, let's find the slope. All right? And you can decide, because we have 4 options, you can decide any points that you want. All right, so let's see who is going to do it. Let's go with Silali. Let's see how mean she wants to be to us. What ordered pairs, Silali? -3, 1.5. Awesome. And? Excellent. I love it. So, for our slope, I'm going to write 1 minus 1.5 over -1 minus -3. Okay, what is 1 minus 1.5? -0.5. Over -1 plus 3. +2. Okay, uh-oh. Who knows -0.5 divided by 2? It's close. It is -0.25 or -1/4. If you're having trouble with that, if you take half and divide it by half again, you get half of a half, which is a fourth. All right. If you're really struggling with that, then you could write -1/2 divided by 2. Still with me? -1/2 divided by 2. Then you could write -1/2 times 1/2. And you get -1/4. So that's our slope. Thank you, Silali. That was so much fun. So glad you chose that. Okay, so now, once you find the slope, that's kind of like your first checkpoint. All right, the game automatically saves. So your slope is -1/4. Now you have options. You can go straight to the slope-intercept form up there. All right, I'm going to show you how to do that later. Or you can do what I'm going to do right now, which is point-slope form. All right, so I'm going to do point-slope form and write y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, now I already know the slope, so I know I'm going to replace -1/4 where it says m. The only other things I should be replacing are the x sub 1 and the y sub 1. I'm never going to replace x and y. I'm going to repeat that. I'm never going to substitute in for x and y. Never do it. Okay? So I'm going to choose my point of -1, 1. I chose this point for my point. You could choose any of the other ones. That's what I'm going to pick. So I'm going to write y minus, what is my y value? 1 equals, my slope is -1/4 times x minus, what's my x value? -1. So you already know that that's going to become a positive. That's going to become a positive. All right, let me do this so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so we have -1/4 times x plus 1. Okay, are we finished?
No.
No, it doesn't look like slope-intercept form, but what's crazy, it's close. It's really close. Bring down the y minus 1. What is -1/4 times x? Excellent. What is -1/4 times 1? -1/4. All right, now we're so close. How do I move this -1 to the other side?
By adding it.
By adding it. And now we're going to get our answer. Y equals negative 1/4 x. What's negative 1/4 plus 1? 0.75. I'm going to keep it with fractions, but I would accept 0.75. And you'll see that this is in slope-intercept form. Now, a lot of my students see me do that and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay? That's fine. I'm going to show you another way that you can choose that way if you don't want to do this way. Okay? Now, keep in mind, there were fractions. All right? Doesn't mean fractions are wrong. And maybe that's why you don't want to do this way, because of the fractions. So what I want you to do is below the next two slides, see how there's space like way below all your slides? Write this, I'm going to do more work, write this work below the slide, like well below. Okay? Or just do like an arrow that you're continuing down there. Okay, so let's do a different color so you know I'm doing a different way. Everyone's going to get the slope the same way. And that slope was negative 1/4. Okay? Now, do you remember that point that we used? What point did I end up using? It was negative 1, 1. Let's confirm. Yes, negative 1, 1. Okay, so if you don't want to use point slope form when you get to this point, then you should. You get to this point? No. You know, the listeners at home, okay, they're giggling. All right. What you're going to do is plug in for your slope is m, so negative 1/4. Do you guys see the x and the y? I'm going to replace x and y with my points. So the x is negative 1, and the y is positive 1, and write plus b. Now this just becomes algebra. You're solving for an unknown, letter b. What is negative 1/4 times the negative 1? Positive 1/4. Okay, plus b equals 1. How do I move that 1/4 to the other side? Subtract 1/4. And you get b equals 3/4. Now, you have to actually write this. I get a lot of students that do this way and they stop here. All right, can't stop here. You have to actually write it in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3/4. And you can confirm, if you just look up a little bit on your slides, that it's the same thing. All right, let's confirm. It's the same thing right there. You can see both. All right, so which one do I want you to use? I don't care. All right? You choose which way you want to do. It doesn't matter. Using point slope form, or you can use slope-intercept form to solve for b. Just make sure if you use this second alternative, that once you get b, you use the slope and the y-intercept to write the equation. I get a lot of students that forget that last step, which is the answer. Okay, so don't forget that. Any questions? Okay, so before you stand up, let's talk a little bit about parallel and perpendicular lines. Do you guys remember what the relationship is between parallel lines and their slope? They have the same slope. That's why they never touch. They have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. Okay, so parallel lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts. What about perpendicular lines? Yes, they intersect. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about their slopes. They have opposite reciprocal slopes. So you got to flip the fraction, and you have to make the sign become the opposite. So if it was positive, it becomes a negative, and vice versa. So with that being said, if you look at these problems, when you get to 3, 4, 5, and 6, I'm asking you to use your understanding that we just talked about parallel and perpendicular lines, to find the slopes. Okay? So that's how you're going to find the slopes. I'm giving you the points, and then it's up to you to use point slope form or slope-intercept form and solve for b. Your choice. Okay? Any questions? I'm going to give you about 12 minutes to do all of these. Ready? Go!